but we're going to go ahead and just jump right in and do this digital declutter. I value your time. This will be an interactive 1 hour session that will meaningfully move you towards managing technology well. That is the goal. By the end of this session, you'll understand how your media environment is contributing to your sense that maybe you can't keep up with things, how to turn down the volume on your digital life so you can be more present, how to establish digital boundaries that stick, and really how to navigate the digital world with joy. So it is a joy to be with you. Thank you, Travis, for jumping in the chat. I would love to hear where you're joining from today. I recognize some of you. It is a very intimate group, as we can see. Knoxville, Tennessee, taking the first steps towards restoring awe and wonder to my life by reducing my online life. Travis, that is beautiful. Awe is a word that I definitely resonate with, wonder as well. Those are themes I write about in both of my books. So thank you, Travis. Thank you, John, joining from Blacksburg down in Virginia. My dear friends down at Virginia Tech representing. Thanks, guys. So for those of you who've never met me before, I'm Christina Crook. I am the founder of Jomo and Jomo Campus. I'm a certified digital wellness educator, a mother of three parent too, a mother of three children, ages 11, 13, and 15. So wearing those different hats of CEO and parent and spouse and daughter and friend and all those things. So wearing those multiple hats like many of you are as well. Case, and I see that you're joining from Canada. You serve as in the role of division digital wellness teacher for school division K-12. Amazing. Would love to chat with you more. Excellent. And Lori, thank you for being here. All right. So what brings you joy? This is always where we start at Jomo because we want to know what we want to make space for. So I want you to answer in the chat at least one person and one pastime that brings you joy right now, not sort of in the past, not something that brought you joy, many years ago, but things that bring you joy today. While you're answering in the chat, I'll go ahead and share mine. Currently, what's bringing me joy is actually reading aloud to my youngest child. I'm reading The Bridge to Terabithia to my 11-year-old son. We got to the terrible, if you haven't read that book, the terrible tragedy in the story last night, which was a really hard thing to navigate through with him, but it's been such a joy to sit with him and to dig deep into beautiful literature. And he's someone I love. So that's Caleb. My family, when we do fun stuff, my new coordinator, Caitlin, brings me joy. Listening to music, absolutely. All those things, wonderful. So studies actually show that people who have hobbies experience more JOMO. So actually knowing what to do when you're off the internet makes it easier to experience that joy, right, of being off the internet, being disconnected from our online lives, because we know what to do with that time. So what do you want? I want you to answer for yourself. You don't have to answer in the chat, but just answer for yourself right now. What do you want more time, energy, attention, and attention to dedicate to? So maybe it is your profession, maybe it is a person or people in your life, maybe it is a pastime, a hobby, a group of friends that you want to make more space for. If you've never heard of JOMO before, take FOMO and flip it on its head. That's JOMO, the joy of missing out. The ethos for JOMO is really simple. We want to deepen our attachment to what matters most and joyfully miss out on the rest. And I want to help make it as easy as possible for you to experience just that. But it's going to take some work. Today, you're going to get some quick wins on what I consider to be some of the most in-your-face aspects of digital overwhelm. You're going to transform from being a passive consumer of a fire hose of content to becoming an intentional participant in control of what enters your life and fully aware of its impact. John also said I could use some more time skiing and some snow. Oh, and Travis is saying he wants more focus, meditating without so much monkey mind. Well, I hope that this declutter process helps create some of that space for you. And John, if I could send you some snow, I would do it in a heartbeat, my friend. I did go skiing on Sunday, I'm not going to lie to you, which was delightful. So I want to share Jomo's 4 principles of digital well-being. For some of you, this will be, a refresher, and for those of you who are joining for the first time or watching the replay, it'll be something new. But the 4 principles of digital well-being at Jomo are no more FOMO. So that's no more fear of missing out. We want to regularly digital declutter. Peaceful progress is the third, and finally, towards the life-giving. And I'm going to break down what each of those mean. So no more fear of missing out is pretty simple, right? Fear of missing out is getting in the way of our joy or our kids' joy or those we lead. We want to take away any sources of FOMO, the fear of missing out. And it's helpful to remember that we are literally missing out 100% of the time, right? You're missing out on every other thing you could have been doing with this hour of time, but you've actually dedicated this time to this activity, right? We're missing out all the time, not part of the time. And I find this is helpful for students to remind them of this. You're not missing out some of the time, you're actually missing out all of the time. It's kind of like, whoa, like it kind of wakes you up and it's a refresher, a reminder, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm not just missing out on that one thing that I'm seeing, unfold in real time on TikTok or Instagram, but actually I'm missing out all the time. And so what does that mean about what I'm doing right now and what I've chosen to do? And am I happy with those things I've chosen to attend to, those things I'm spending my time on? FOMO is wanting what other people have or what they appear to have. And FOMO's core messages, you can see them right there on the screen, are you don't have enough, right? You're scrolling through social media, or maybe you're just even with a social group and you're having those feelings of FOMO, right? You're hearing messages saying you don't have enough, you're not doing enough, right? And really at its core, FOMO saying you are not enough. Well, we want to pay attention to and eliminate sources of those voices regularly. And we're going to be doing that a bit today. Digital decluttering. So the sheer volume of information we're expected to process on a daily basis makes it incredibly difficult to focus on what matters, just like Travis highlighted in the chat. To control digital consumption, we need to regularly review our accounts. And this I call digital house cleaning or digital decluttering. So I'll give you an example. I recently asked my 15-year-old daughter in a car ride, a good place to have conversations with teens about their tech use. I asked her about her smartphone use. So she's new to having an iPhone. I said, what's working? What's not working? She said, what's working? Photos. Okay. She used to have a flip phone. Taking photos on a flip phone is absolutely horrible. You remember, it's all grainy and pixelated and no fun at all. She couldn't even share those photos with her friends. She said, photos are working, beautiful photos, sharing them with her friends. What's not working? She said, shopping newsletters. Shopping newsletters were not working for her. She was noticing that she was shopping more than she wanted to be. And I said, awesome. I want you to unfollow. I want you to digitally declutter right now. I want you to unsubscribe from 3 newsletters right now. And I make sure one of them is Sephora because we know that Sephora has a love on for teenage, their teenage audience. And so she unsubscribed right there in the car, right? Regularly decluttering to make our digital spaces work for us. Peaceful progress, right? We want to celebrate small wins. When we break things down into achievable pieces, we achieve our goals, gaining momentum, confidence, and hope. We want to focus on short-term wins like putting your phone down to play a game or read a book. In my example I shared, deleting a time-sucking app, right? Showing up for this digital declutter session, watching the replay, right? Peaceful progress, celebrating those small wins. Sometimes this whole idea of digital overwhelm, right? The digital world can be so overwhelming, to use that word again, but breaking it down and celebrating those small wins along the way is absolutely essential. And finally, I believe that the key to thriving with technology is about orienting our lives towards what gives life. So that's why I asked you, right, what brings joy? And so I encourage you to begin, if you don't already have a practice like this, at the end of each day, asking yourself these 2 simple questions. And if you have a family, you can do this with them as well. Asking them or asking yourself, what today was most life-giving? What gave life to you? What was energizing? And what today was most life-taking, right? What took life from you? What was most de-energizing? And what I love about this practice is over time, we will intentionally begin to do more of what gives life. And for many of us, our digital use, our mindless digital use, falls squarely in that life-taking column. And so we want to move away from that towards more of what gives life. What do we actually pay when we pay attention? I love this question from technology philosopher James Williams, who helped co-found the Center for Humane Technology. For many of you are familiar with that organization. They were the creators of the Social Dilemma documentary on Netflix. What do you actually pay when you pay attention? I'd never heard that question phrased in that way, and I've loved it and shared it ever since. Well, in his book, Stand Out of Our Light, Freedom and Resistance in the Attention Economy, James Williams says this. He says, what do you pay when you pay attention? Well, you pay with all the things you could have attended to but didn't, all the goals you didn't pursue, all the actions you didn't take, and all the possible yous you could have been had you attended to those other things, right? Managing our time and our attention well, and so much of our days is spent on technology, on digital devices, right? Which is in turn causing us to become or not become certain people, not pursue or pursuing the goals that we intend to achieve. He says we pay attention with the lives we might have lived, right? The true cost is really our life. What are we surrendering it for? What are we giving it for? Each and every day, each and every hour, minute, second we spend on our time and attention. So I want you to answer in the chat. And for those of you watching the replay, I want you to answer for yourself. Where do you think you're losing the most time online? Where do you think you're losing the most time online? I'd like you to go ahead and share that answer in the chat. And if you're watching online, please go ahead and just reflect on that for yourself. Where do you think you're losing the most time online? I'll share mine. Netflix. It's such a cliche, but just unwinding at the end of the day. Netflix, and not even really watching new content, but rewatching content. I don't know if anyone's like that, but it's sort of like that default, turn your mind off, completely decompress. And so for me, it's Netflix. At the end of the day, Kaysen says email responses, it's so easy for us to default into being in, right? Like using our email box as our to-do list. Okay, that is not the way we want to use our email accounts, right? As a to-do list, we want to be intentional. So things like batching our emails, having autoresponders, saying, that we respond to email at certain times of day, so people can expect certain response times from us. I'm seeing administrative work, watching shows. Evernote, okay, that's an interesting one, which might be used for personal or professional, or maybe a mixture of both. Not jokingly, trying to find files that work with our 6 different storage systems. 100%, John, I feel for you. I know you're not alone in that pain and suffering. There are many people that feel that. Obviously, you only have so much control over that because you don't get to choose those systems. You have to work within them, but we will be going through a process of organizing and sorting and bringing into the trash documents that we no longer need. So hopefully that will serve part of that process. So today I'm going to teach you how to digitally house clean, sweeping away the overwhelming content that distracts, wastes your precious time and life, and intrudes on what you really value. We're going to start with your social media list. We're going to move on to your email box, then to your desktop, and finally to your phone, which is my all-time favorite. Our devices are part of our lives, and just like our homes and vehicles and our bodies themselves, our devices form part of our everyday emotional and practical environment. They have tremendous power to affect the way we feel about ourselves and our lives and the ways we work and create. Just like all those other things, living joyfully or mindfully means performing the necessary maintenance to keep our relationship to our devices healthy. We clean up, repair, tidy, and organize the things we rely on every day. Just yesterday, I was hot gluing my daughter's boots back together, okay? We repair, right? We take care of the things we need all the time. We use our digital devices all day, every day. We need to attend to them. Today we're going to do that for all those things, all the devices that define your daily relationship with technology. That includes phones, computers, tablets, and digital watches if you have them. If it's digital, we want to declutter it today. So you might choose to do this process with one or two devices that you choose. And this is a process that is best done on a weekly or at bare minimum a monthly basis. And so thank you for those of you who are revisiting this process. I know that you already know that doing this and dedicating the time to do it is really one of the main keys. It's just blocking the time, doing the work. So let's start with the big one, our social media follow list. Okay, this is where a lot of us lose the most time, especially on content we consume thoughtlessly or out of habit, even if it gives us nothing at all or makes us feel outraged or depressed. Social media channels make it super easy to follow accounts, usually in one click. It's easy to understand why, right? The more accounts we follow, the more that shows up in our feed and in notifications if we have them. And it's one more thing that keeps us coming back over and over again. And if we follow enough accounts, we've got a basically endless stream of new content, much of it anxiety inducing, right? Midnight doom scrolling anyone. So it's demanding our response all day long. So it's time to get intentional. For each account you follow, you're going to ask yourself 3 questions and answer as quickly and instinctively as possible. So this is for the accounts that you follow. So go into one social media account right now, choose, and then find the list of accounts that you follow, not the people that follow you, but the accounts that you follow. And for each account, you're going to ask yourself 3 questions and answer these questions as quickly and instinctively as possible, okay? The first question is, who is this? Do you know who or what this content is, okay? If you don't know who or what this contact is, just unfollow it, okay? And you'll be surprised by how many of those there are probably in your account. So who is this? If you don't know right now who or what this is, then unfollow. If you do know who or what it is, then move on to the second question, which is, does this feel good or is it important? Is your immediate emotional impression that this contact or content makes you feel good or is important? If the answer is no, then unfollow it. Maybe it is a source of FOMO. Maybe it was giving you value at some point, but it's no longer giving you value. So you want to answer for yourself right now, does it make you feel good or is it important right now? If the answer is no, unfollow. If the answer is yes, then move on to the third question, which is right there for you to see, which is, do I want to bring this with me? Okay. It might be true that you know what it or who it is. It might be true that you see some value in it, but really, do you want to bring it forward with you into the future? If you can answer yes, then absolutely keep following it and feel good about that. But if the answer is no, then unfollow. Okay. So you're going to spend 5 minutes unfollowing accounts in your preferred social media platform. My challenge to you is to unfollow at least 20 accounts. Okay. And if it's someone that's personal to you, then you could maybe mute them instead of unfollowing them altogether. There are those options in most of the platforms. And Instagram has a good feature. For some people, it shows up, for others, it doesn't, but it often will show you sort of least interacted with. And so that's a great place to start. So I'm going to turn on the music. I'm going to disappear off screen for 4.5 minutes while you unfollow on your social media account of choice. Off you go. Way to go, everyone. You got this. All right, everyone, about 40 seconds left. You're unfollowing social media accounts in TikTok or Instagram or even YouTube, wherever it is that you're consuming the most content. You're asking yourself three questions in sequence. Who is this? Does it feel good or is it important? And do I want to bring this content with me? If the answer is no, unfollow. If the answer is yes, hold on to that. Feel good about it. All right, and that's the end of the timer. Well done, everyone. So our takeaway, right, is no more fear of missing out. We want to regularly pay attention to sources of FOMO and unfollow those accounts, right? You just took an important step in eliminating sources of those voices and protecting your mental and emotional well-being. So well done, everyone. And we've got our dear friend Oprah here to celebrate with us. How was that for you? Please answer in the chat. How many accounts did you unfollow? Did it feel good? Was it hard? I'd love to hear a couple of wins in the chat. And as you're doing that, I'll just say a couple of things. As you do this more regularly, you'll refine your social media accounts until your lists are only full of mindful, meaningful connections, right, and content. And that is the goal. The goal is for our accounts to be working for us and not the other way around. So what wins did you accomplish in unfollowing? Please let me know. All right, so unfollowing accounts was accomplished. Well done, everyone. Okay, let's move on to our email unsubscribe. Gets inside. And for those of you who have noticed already that your accounts are already weeded out, and just enjoying seeing the names of people from your past or maybe current colleagues or friends, and that feeling really good. That is how we want our social media accounts to feel. That is absolutely the goal, is we want to spark joy in our digital lives. So that's amazing. So now we want to move to our email unsubscribes. You're going to spend a few minutes unsubscribing, as I mentioned before, my daughter doing this, from email newsletters. We're going to go through the same process as we did with our social media accounts. We're going to answer these questions. The content, the newsletters that you're subscribed to, who is it? Who or what is that content? Does it feel good or is it important? And do you want to bring that content with you? Now, many of us use Gmail accounts or maybe work related providers. And so we might have all of our newsletters pulling, for example, into a newsletter folder or some kind of promotions folder. So that's probably the easiest place to find that content. For each newsletter in your inbox, you're going to ask yourself these three questions in sequence. And I want you absolutely not to think about each question like you need to answer it instinctively. No more than 5 seconds at an absolute maximum for each question. If the answer to any of these questions for any of the newsletters that you subscribe to, then please go ahead and unfollow them, unsubscribe from it. So you've got 5 minutes. You're doing email unsubscribes. Off you go, everybody. You got this. You dedicated the time. Please continue with the process. You've dedicated it. And you're going to be so happy when you go back into your email box and less of that content is there. All right, everyone, about a minute more, you're unsubscribing from email. If you've already completed that process, you can go back to your social media accounts, a new social media platform, perhaps, using this time wisely to digitally declutter for this hour. Well done, everyone. About 40 more seconds of email unsubscribing. I'll mention that the digital declutter process is a lesson both for professional development, for staff, as well as for students within our Jomo Campus program for schools. And so these replays are available as a part of our program. I love doing them live because, well, it's just gets it done. We are in the room, so to speak. I'm a rower, and so I know that showing up is a big part of what motivates me. And so well done to those of you who showed up live and those who showed up to do the replay. So okay, now on to organizing our desktops. So I have to ask you, does your desktop or perhaps your Google Drive or one of those other many platforms that you're required to use for work, does it look a little bit like this? Okay, how does it make you feel when you power up your computer or your tablet? Do you lose any time finding that thing that you're looking for? Have you ever lost an app or a document entirely because you got used to opening it from your desktop or perhaps from a shortcut and now you can't find it? Right? Messy desktops, bookmarks, or Google Drives, in my case, are our worst nightmare. If you want to beat FOMO, keep focus, and accomplish your goals, we don't want to let digital clutter get in your way. So when we digitally house clean, we're doing three things. So we're organizing, we're tidying, and we're creating mindful, or what I call digital friction. So organizing is pretty simple. We want to know exactly where everything we need is. The harder something is to find, the more likely we'll get distracted or frustrated or even bored and eventually lost along the way. Tidying can be one of the hardest things we do. Just like a certain person who became rich and famous by teaching the magical art of tidying up, our friend Marie Kondo, we need to methodically and intentionally examine every object in our digital space and ask, does this app, site, contact, or content serve me? You already started that process, right? In our last two sections. Is it important? Does it bring me joy? We then have to have the courage to discard or to miss out if the answer is no. And finally, creating mindful friction is how we immunize ourselves against bad habits. Friction is like adding a speed bump, okay? It's just essentially making something just inconvenient enough that we have to do it consciously instead of doing it mindlessly. It forces you to ask, hey, what am I about to do here? Do I actually want to be doing that? Do I actually want to be spending my time in this way? And so actually one of the things we have at Jomo, I'll share it with you. We have stickers of this too, but this is our phone wallpaper. I don't know if you can see it, but it says, what am I doing? Who is this for? And to what end? Like, what is the actual end game here? And if you go to experiencejomo.com/, free resources. There's free downloadables there to make those bookmarks or wallpapers, excuse me, for you. But that's an example of mindful friction, of digital friction, adding in that speed bump. So we're doing your desktop right now, and I want you to right click and create two folders and only two folders on your desktop, okay? Well, obviously right now it has a lot of other things, but I would like you to add these two folders. Doesn't that just look so calming? Like it makes me so peaceful just to look at this screen. You're going to create two folders, one called Important Documents and one called Spark Joy, or whatever joy related term you would like to give that folder. But those are the two ideas. What is important and what actually brings you joy? Important Documents and Spark Joy. Now, My challenge to you over the next 5 minutes is that I want every single thing on your desktop to end up in one of these two folders by the end of this exercise. And I have to share with you that these calls actually are my accountability to keep my desktop organized in this way. I'm right here with you. I know when I'm really busy, the desktop, the Google Drive goes nuts. But taking this time to reclaim that space makes it work so much better for me. So I just want to make a note that these two folders are a great starting point, but you will likely decide that you need more categories. Okay. But the goal is right now for you to be very cutthroat and make the decision of what's actually important to you and what needs to go away. So for each loose item on your desktop, I want you to decide whether it belongs in important documents, spark joy, and if it does not, if you cannot answer with integrity that it belongs in either of those categories, then I want you to drag it to the trash. Okay, and we are going to empty the trash by the end of our time together today. So you've got 5 minutes. You are tidying up your desktop or a primary channel for you. Maybe it's Google Drive, and you're going to get in there and you're going to decide what's important, what sparks joy, and what needs to be dragged to the trash. And I will tell you that the Spark Joy folder, I have one, and it is a place I return to again and again. It is a well that keeps giving to me. And so it's a practical thing as well, right? You can spark joy on your computer, friends. So off you go. I'm going to put the music back on for you. 4.5 minutes of desktop cleanup. You got this. Well done, everyone. You are moving through your desktop cleanup process, looking at each loose item on your desktop and deciding whether it belongs in important documents, spark joy, or trash. All right, drag those things to the right place. And you've got about 30 seconds left. You guys are using your time wisely, digitally decluttering to make space for what matters to you. Well done, everybody. Amazing job. We're going to celebrate some more wins. Good job getting our little, sparkle, our little confetti on. It is JOMO after all. We got the joy going on. All right. Last but not least, the big one, the phone tidy, the final essential step. This next one is a nice, easy, quick win. You are going to delete any apps you haven't used in the last month, and you're going to hide away time-wasting apps, or better yet, delete them. Okay, so let's break it down. I want you to create a folder on a screen other than your home screen. Okay, so one or more swipes away from your home screen. And I want you to put all of your social media or time sucking or maybe money sucking apps into that folder. Okay, so this is a great place to put any apps you feel that you use mindlessly or more than you want to or too often. Okay, I want you to give this folder a creative name. Okay, so come up with a creative name for this folder that reminds you that there's hazardous material inside. Okay, you can put phrases like "Are you sure?" as a prompt, or "Intentional use only." I heard one from a student recently I really liked, which is "Sleep is better." Okay, you get to decide. I want to hear your creative names at the end. I always love hearing and discovering new creative names for the folders. And this creates the friction we talked about in the beginning, right? You're now adding another 1, 2, or 3 small steps to getting to those major time sinks. Nothing so onerous that you can't use the apps if you really want to, but enough friction for you to be able to see what you're doing and ask yourself, do I really need to check my feed now? Do I need to check that page or that platform again? Is this really what I took my phone out for? All right. The more friction you can comfortably add to your unconscious, unintentional use of technology without it becoming an aggravating level of inconvenience, the better shot you're giving yourself at using your device mindfully. All right. If you can't remember the last time you used an app, now is the moment to let it go. Okay. And last but not least, we are going to make one of the biggest steps for some of you, but one of the most powerful digital detox moves you can make. And that is we're going to turn off all push notifications on your mobile device. Okay, so I'll let that sink in for a moment. Some of you may have already done this and are smiling knowingly because you love it and because you know it's so powerful. And some of you are shouting no in your head. You do not want to do this. Push notifications are without a doubt the most powerful intrusion and distractor in the digital era. They have the incredible power to pull us away from almost anything, right? From deep study sessions to a meaningful conversation, from keeping our eyes on the road when we're driving, right? They put us on edge, jumping for their pleasure when they buzz or beep. So the simplest way to overcome this is to turn on Do Not Disturb in your settings. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go through your phone tidy process. If you have any questions, jump in the chat and ask them. Off you go. All right, about another minute on your phone tidy. You're hiding your social media apps or any other apps you want to spend less time on into a creatively named folder, one or two swipes away from your home screen, adding in that digital or mindful friction. You're deleting time draining apps or any apps you haven't used in the last month. They are waiting for you in the App Store. You can always go back and download them again. So they'll always be waiting there for you if you want to go back to them, if you really want that content again or that tool again. And finally, turn off notifications. So in settings, go to notifications and turn on do not disturb is the simplest way, and manually bringing back the individual notifications that you do want on for each platform. Well done, everyone. You are doing so well. All right, so that is it for the phone tidy. We have our friend, another confetti friend, right? All there's left to say is, well done. Well done, everybody. I want to hear, what were some of your cleverly named folders? Maybe you renamed a folder if you had one before. What is your cleverly named folders? I'm expecting a lot from my friend John. But any one of you, I'd love to hear, what were some of your cleverly named folders? Please share in the chat. This was the folder you're putting your toxic waste in, or anything you wanted to spend less. Nobody wants this. That is officially my new favorite work folder. Okay, fair. Work, 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 work. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, you guys. If there's any other ones, I'd love to hear. That is awesome. I'm always looking for a new favorite. Tech-tensional. Okay. Okay, I'm here for that. We're being intentional about our tech-tensional. If you just coined that, you better get on to the internet and reserve that. Put a little TM on that. That's pretty dang good. Tech-tensional. I like it. Nobody wants this work folder. Tech-tensional. All right, so have fun with that. You can rename it, right? If that prompt's not working for you anymore after a while, you're kind of just bypassing it. There might be time for a new name. But I just want to leave you with this last JOMO takeaway. And thank you so much for joining or watching the replay. You might be asking, how do I drop my device and get outside? Or how do I take breaks and not experience FOMO, right? How do I keep this going? Well, the truth is, the easiest way to get off technology is, and right, aren't we all burned out by tech? Yes, we are. The easiest way to get off technology is to find something better to do, okay, and to lean into it. And so, right, digital decluttering is a part of this process. We want to be centered on joy. We want to remember what those joyful things are. And so another thing that you can do, right, in addition to decluttering, in addition to taking things away, is what are you adding in? Maybe you want to add a new wallpaper, as I mentioned, that you can use of ours at Jomo as prompts, but maybe it's you do a vision board, right? You take a photo of it and that becomes your wallpaper. That's your reminder of how you want to actually be spending your time and attention, the things that bring you joy, the goals that you have. Okay, so what are you adding back in, right? The easiest way to get off technology is to find something better to do and to lean into it. We need to know what we're going to do with our time that we've reclaimed. And we don't just want to fill it with more digital activities, right? We want to fill it with the things that bring life. So thank you all for being here. There will be a replay of this session available for 48 hours if you want to share that out at jomocampus.com/digital declutter. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can easily do that at Christina@experiencejomo.com. Thank you again all for being here, and have a wonderful rest of your day.